no little kid there. You were there to be a companion to a lonely woman who didn't want to be around her husband.
Kind of thing, yeah.
But that's
so, okay.
In essence,
listen,
she kind of adopted you
in a weird way. And again, I was in and out. I wasn't like in and out. And then when you become older, and I'm wrestling. They're actually, I don't believe they believed in God, and I was going to church, and I believed in God. So I think I infused a little bit of that there, which is cool. But
yeah,
I just got that what it felt like probably to grow up when your parents wanted to do Christmas, because that was a big deal for them. Like, we never had that, so I wouldn't know, or Thanksgiving or whatever. But then you grow up and things start to happen. It's not all, just life, right? So when, Stacy moved away, it was really hard for me. And I started to go to a junior high that I had to audition for this new junior high. And it was a theater and fine arts magnet, and no one ever heard of it before.
Nice.
But it was in the same area I lived in, and so I ended up getting in, but there was lots of gangs. So basically, when we were walking to school, sometimes we take the bus, and me and my friend Chris, we got jumped into a gang at 13. Right? No. There's no choice, Like, okay. And I guess the funny part was I've always been positive for the most part, but I always have an edge. Like, my brothers and I have 2 brothers. We'd fight, and they taught me how to wrestle, fight. So I was a toughie on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, cool. And they liked me because I was tall and kind of big. And they're like, okay, so we're going to start to fight. That's what we want you for, to like fight this other gang. And at the time, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can dig that. I'm down with that. And like after a couple fights, I was like, I'm not down with this at all.
You didn't want to do it.
The problem is, I know I am skin, but I don't feel it, like I am. I read books all the time. I'm reading. I'm talking to the head of the gang. Her name's Rosa, who was really cool. But they were all, and I'm just like throwing out philosophy, throwing out spirituality. And she's like, you know what? You don't belong here.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
She goes, you don't belong here. My boyfriend, you're not supposed to be with us. And she's like, my boyfriend's in jail. I don't think I'm going to live a long life. There's something else for you. And I was like, yeah, I feel that. I wasn't like scared, or I was just kind of trying to figure out, always her bestie,
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I know. And she's like, you need to like not be in a gang. And I don't need to be in a gang. So actually, they let me go.
They didn't jump you out.
Which never happens. And I continued to talk to her for years and knew a lot of the girls. And just funny story, I think I was in my 20s and I bumped into a girl that was in the gang, and she looked so old. She had been in jail a couple times. She had tats all over the place. And she's like, look, what happened? You went this way, I went that way. Look at the difference. And I was like, yeah. Wow. So close to making some really bad choices.
Yeah, man, it doesn't take long. And I mean, it is a crossroad. And that's the interesting thing, is that life takes you down paths that some you don't choose, some you do choose. And now I didn't have any of those experiences to speak from, because by all intent and purposes, I grew up straight-laced. Mm-hmm. Made bad decisions, but I never had, I didn't live in a bad neighborhood. I lived in Plano, Texas, like it was primarily, middle class, decent school, lived down the street from South Fork Ranch, from that TV show Dallas, There wasn't anything going on, no gangs there. Dealt with some racism, but not anything so significant that was like life altering.
Yeah.
But that makes you who you are, and that's what makes me who I am. Mm-hmm. It's like you have that to experience, to say you can make a different choice, and you don't have to follow the path that you think is for you. You can choose, and in this case, I feel like God impressed on her to let you go. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't even need to be there. You did it just because you didn't know any better.
Yeah.
For me, that's the thing. I always was guided by inside. It was never an external thing. I always felt like I had, a relationship with God, but I always made like stupid choices.
I always say we're here to do that. Like, I mean, now that I'm older, when I was 15, or we didn't know, but I feel like this life is to you're doing the best you can. You're
Yeah.
gonna make some bad choices, and then it's how you recover from those choices. I think that lends itself to your legacy.
Recover. I mean, what is recovery? Because I mean, this is something that I've been dealing with. Because I mean, here, fast forward, and here we are today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got so many experiences that we've experienced together. We've grown together. We've felt around in the dark, figuring it out, but at the same time impacting so many lives. Like, never in a million years did I think that people would be reaching out to us from other countries saying, "Oh my gosh," you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
When I was that girl in the bed crying at night because the Haley comet was coming, or the 15-year-old pregnant mom, I didn't think I was gonna be traveling the world.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I was gonna be, you know, impacting people through what I do.
Right.
Like, did you ever think that at the time?
I thought I was going to be a nun, and I did think I was going to be a missionary nun, and I did think I always liked Mother Teresa, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to India, and I'm going to take care of the poor. Like I literally thought that. I felt it, and I wanted it, and lots of reasons why that didn't happen. Lots of reasons, but I always thought that in some shape or form, yes.
Taking care of the poor. So think about that today, because I mean, do people even really know what that means? I mean, because poor
I didn't even know
is several different things.
Yeah.
And so if you think about, you know, the impact that you have on people, it could be poor spirit,
yes.
poor mindset,
yes.
poor. So I define it differently, maybe.
Now
and
I
so
do too.
where I thought, okay, yeah. I'm not. I wondered though, was I ever supposed to go into like this formal ministry? Because my mom was a teacher,
mm-hmm.
my grandma was a missionary, my uncles were preachers. Like, that's naturally the progression,
mm-hmm.
but I never felt it. It was just like I never felt like I was supposed to be. Am I supposed to be a preacher? Am I supposed to? So when I did finally come into like who I am, it was not convention. It was so I named you the unconventional leader. But the non-convention of still impacting people, still, because I asked my mom, before my mom died, I was struggling with, like, what am I here for? Like, what's my gift? Because, you know, in church, they're always talking about gifts and this and that. But I couldn't figure out, was it supposed to be something like her?
Mm.
And I wanted to live up to something, but it always, like, bothered me that I didn't know. And at the time, I wasn't doing any fashion. I was just living life, trying to make it paycheck to paycheck, raising my daughter.
It's scary when that happens.
Yeah, but I mean, I was in my early 30s, maybe late 20s, early 30s, and I used to just kind of wonder. And I asked my mom, what is it? And I would tell her, because people would just call me out of random. I would get random phone calls from people, and they would be going through really hard times. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I would have a conversation with them. They would end up in tears on the phone. And then at the end of the conversation, it's like, I'm so glad I called you. I feel so much better. So I was telling my mom about how this happened. She's like, that's what you're here to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, wait, that's not,
what,
like,
is that
exciting.
Marketable? No.
Yeah, I was like, how
am I going to make money doing that?
Yeah, and it wasn't even at the time about making money, because you know what? Only in the last 10 years have people ever tried to market their gift. Like, in the current society, you almost don't feel like you're doing anything unless you can turn it into an e-course.
I guess now.
I was just changing lives through conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
There was no, was I going to be an online life coach getting people to pay me $150 an hour? Like, there was none of that. So back in the early 2000s, you were just having conversation on the telephone, the landline. It wasn't even a cell phone. You were just having a landline conversation. That was human. That was regular. That was natural. The thing that I feel like has been lost, and where I sometimes struggled, was, is it supposed to be a business, or is it supposed to be the business of changing lives? Mm-hmm. One person, one conversation, one interact. Mm-hmm. Like that thing that makes us different is that we're still that person. So we're that whole, and I don't want to call it a savior complex, but that idea that people come to you out of need. They connect with you, and you have something different. They see something. I don't know what that thing is that they see, but they see something in you.
But did that also make you vulnerable? Because I feel like it did for me. So I was always the person, like you're saying, people came to for advice. And I'm going to say something kind of controversial, but at times when I was younger, I sometimes get visions. I would. I mean, I don't know who gave them to me or whatever, but I would, a couple of times about something bad that was going to happen. So I had a friend, and I had a dream that she got grabbed out of a bush. And I was like, you have to be careful. I had a dream. And we were walking home from school, and someone tried to grab her. And I pulled her, and we ran, and I'm like, okay, wait, that's really crazy. That dream, you know. And there was a lot of times like that when I was younger. But the vulnerability is, in my mind, in the world, is like there's good and evil. And so when you're a strong person and people want to, then I personally attracted also not so good people.
Yeah.
That would try to take advantage of whatever the gifts. Also, even I would say the power of the authenticity, the spirituality. There's people out there, and again, don't know why, for whatever reason, then they want to steal it.
Oh, for sure.
And it does impact you though, right? So it starts you down a totally different road, because I'm all clear, everything's great, and then
you get railroaded by a bad actor.
Somebody bad,
yeah.
And then you start to question, and I started to question even God. Yeah. I lost God for a while.
Oh, you and me both.
You know, because you start to go, why would, I know you allow, which now I know it's not him allowing, but why would you allow that to happen to me? I'm so faithful. I want to, you know, I'm so good. I'm making great choices. But even then, now that, again, was I?
I mean, but again, perfect people, imperfect people that we are. Like, and you're the one that has kind of given me that level of grace. You're hard on yourself. You need to be kinder to yourself. And then on sometime when you grow up the way that I did, you always feel this deep sense of condemnation. It's like condemn yourself. You just made a bad decision. You chose that person. It's your fault. Like all these things come up. And so when people see you now, they see you as this strong, confident person. That vulnerability that you do have inside, people won't even fully allow you to express it. Although you attract these people because they can see it.
Yeah.
But they don't allow you the grace to have these feelings. They just look at you like, what? Like, what? You're suffering? Like, it never was really your thing. And so I'm like, people never could truly see who you ask. Who are you? I don't really know that much about you. People don't want to know the truth because they want to take you at the face value that they see.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that a lot, even to this day.
Yeah. Well, I think, listen, we all bring our own stuff to the table. And again, I want to get to know you better. You know, I'm committed to getting to know people better and trying to remove layers.
Yeah.
So we could go deeper, right? Like, what gives me pause is I do have and again, I got lucky late in life, I guess, fell in love with somebody who's actually, you know, not perfect.
Right.
But pretty amazing. And now I finally get to see what is that? When you are vulnerable and you start to peel the layers, and it's so very scary, but when it's again reciprocated and it feels safe, the safety.
Yeah.
It's very freeing. It makes you even more confident, you know what I mean? And that's what I want to achieve with everyone. Why just Tim? Why can't I do it with you? Why can't we have the safety that we need to be able to share whatever we need to share, and then again be able to impact other people? Because like, let's go back to loss. Whenever you lose somebody, why don't we know them? You know, why? Like even people close to us. I don't know. Maybe we're not asking the right questions.
Some. I think it depends. Because like you said, that vulnerability that you have, I mean, I believe I've had that. I have had that with my kid's dad, you know, when I was married to my husband. And I understand what that intimacy looks like now. At some point, he was even more than me because he was like a lot. Because he wanted to talk about everything. It was just like, dude, you know, I like to talk, and we were best friends, and we chit-chat all night. But at some point, like, I need a mental break. And he was, like, piled on. I've never had a man that actually was that vulnerable since. And my husband talked about everything.
Yeah.
There was no, like, he would make a mistake and he'd come home and cry because he made a mistake and he felt like he failed me. Like, but I know what that intimate conversation, that partner feels like. I know that person can exist. I haven't found another person to fill that space, but I'm so grateful that I got a chance. Now, it was rocky. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
It was, you know what I'm
all
saying?
All kinds of rocky.
but it was rocky good at the same time. Now, I know there's lots of days I would wake up and be like, I can't stand you. Like, I hate you. I want a divorce, you know. And now I'm more conscious of the language and the words that I would use. And before I wish... Sometimes I had wished I wouldn't have said all those things to him, because now I'm aware of the power of my words. But, you know, I was young.
Yeah,
I was, you know, we had 3 kids. We're trying to figure out life
with 3 kids.
You know,
gosh. Yeah.
And that was
You're
a
also
part
tired.
of it.
You're
Yeah,
exhausted.
tired, exhausted, but the thing about how the person that you need finds you. Like, back to that, I believe that he believed in me.
Yeah.
Even when I wasn't a designer. Like, I remember just going and buying plastic beads at Walmart because I wanted to make a statement jewelry that didn't exist. And so he would, and it was with like the ugliest little pieces of jewelry. I was proud of them, but he would just sit and look at them and be like, wow, that's so good. And I got good. Like, then I found like no plastic. I wasn't going to Walmart. Now I found a rock store and I'm going and buying real gems, and I learned how to, you know, make real amazing jewelry.
Yeah.
And he would just brag. I mean,
Aww.
You know how you could find somebody to just be like, my wife made jewelry. She made that jewelry on her neck, and he was so proud of me.
Yeah.
And so to feel that there is actually somebody who can see you, who would tell you that you're beautiful every day, that would tell you to go out and pursue your dream.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be traveling to this day if he didn't give me the opportunity to take a job that would allow me to travel across the world. I was like, let's go together. He's like, no, I'm not flying, but you go.
That's how mine
that
is.
Permission was that means a lot. So so he saw me. And so when I say you maybe get just one, I don't know if people can get more than one, but I had that. So that vulnerability, that my dream from a kid, I could talk to somebody about it, and they understood, and they would say, I don't have your vision, but I'm not going to stop you from yours.
Yeah.
And because he laid that foundation with me of allowing me to be me and to rip and run the world with newborns, like, he let me do that. Go to India, go to Jamaica, go to the Philippines, and he did it with pride.
Well, that's love. You know what I mean? That's like that mutual respect, love, intimacy, vulnerability. And that's what all of us are trying to achieve. And I wonder if my question is, like, is it only with a life partner, that you can achieve that type of love, or is there ability to do that amongst us, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, listen, I think that if I hadn't met you, where would my life be? That is the most interesting of all the conversations.
I just want to say, I'll never forget the day you walked in. Because, listen, I was in all kinds of change. I'd been at this company a long time and had been doing a job. And then I get promoted after years and years of actually deserving it, just being honest. And my boss at the time, who's kind of my boss now, she's an amazing human being. We'll talk about her. Or actually, we should have her on, because and I want to ask her some questions. But anyways. And she allowed me a year of just kind of figuring out where we're going. So we had this program, this customer service program we wanted to do, and I did all this research, and then it was time to hire. And so I had no background in this particular industry. And just remember, a lot of people came in, and I'm a kind of person, and again, this is where this comes in. I just know. I don't even have to ask you a lot of questions. This is how I fly by the seat of my pants. I just know. She comes in, and I was like, wow, because she's stunning, right? And but besides that, she was so smart, so articulate. I was like, oh yeah. I don't even know how long our interview lasted. I was like,
I don't know. It didn't feel like an interview.
That's it. Yeah. We're good.
Yeah.
Hire.
Yeah. It didn't feel like an interview, but she prepped me up for the next one, and she's like, it's going to be hard, and I was just like, I went in there, and it was like we were best friends.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
it felt like we'd known each other for our whole life. Like, that's how it felt, like how I felt when I met my husband. It just felt there, and there are people like that. that when you meet them, you're like, oh yeah, they're my person. Cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I felt I was nervous, but I felt a comfort. I felt like, I walked in and here's this lady.
No, she's like, what is she wearing?
She had on like a Broncos t-shirt and a tattoo on the side of her arm, and I was like, what the heck am I just like walking into? It was a Friday, dressed down, and I'm coming in my suit, and she's got a tattoo, and I remember thinking that's where that unconventional word came in. But she was free enough to wear her tattoo to an interview, so I just knew that I fit. Like, I don't know how he fit, but we're like yin and yang.
Oh
it couldn't be
God.
further from the opposite,
So
but
bizarre.
but I knew that there was something there. And so when I got the job, you just allowed me to be free to explore. I was scared to death, didn't know what I was doing. I had all these, I had a ton of ideas, and I was actually able to use them for the first time in my entire career. Not that I didn't have the ability before. I had autonomy. But in this case, it was creativity that I was struggling to have in prior jobs. I had the structure and the strategy and the process and all that stuff.
Which I didn't, by the way.
None.
I had none of that.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I love that. And so to me, that goes back to that whole, how did you know what you wanted? Like, I now know that I needed to thrive in a creative environment because it's something that I love, and I feel like you allow me to do that.
Well, what was great, though, what I think was beautiful on your part is she knew I didn't know a lot of stuff. I mean, I did. I knew a lot about the company, and I'm very visionary, so that I had on my side. But I didn't know, and you have to make a choice. You can choose to be pissed off, bitter, oh my gosh, that's my boss, she doesn't know anything. Or you can be kind and say, let's work together, and I'm going to teach you how to do these, where your gaps are, I'm going to fill them.
Yeah.
And that's the gift you gave to me, without judgment. And that's why I think we could continue to have this really great relationship that got real deep.
Yeah.
Pretty fast.
Listen, you're the smartest freaking, the bomb. I would just be like, I used to say to people, don't be sleeping on this woman. Like, you don't even know what I know. And so it's funny because, I mean, that idea, it just flowed. Yeah. It was it was hard, the hardest work I've ever done in my life. But it would, like, you would go to sleep, wake up, boom, there's the idea. We would sit in a room for hours and boom, it just flowed. There was lots of mistakes and lots of crazy, but it would always, it was like this dance. It would almost be like doing a dance. It was so crazy to me. So that, I really do believe that God has a way of bringing the right people at the right time in the right situation. And I was scared to death coming into this. And I remember how much fear I had, but I think I had to have that much fear in order to move forward with faith, to believe that the things that I was going to do was going to impact people. And so back to that whole, I didn't really know what my gift was, or as a kid, could I see myself doing. I saw none of what I'm doing today. Yeah. Not this part of it. Yeah. Now, I did have even bigger dreams that haven't been realized. Just from the foundation of starting something with this unconventional person. Like, there's more than I know is supposed to be there. So no matter how hard my childhood was, no matter how much overcoming, no matter how many divorces and all this crazy, and being a widow, I literally know now that all of that had to happen. All of it had to happen. Yeah. And it was the empowering piece. Now, I'll tell you this. The one thing I can truly say is that I lived segmented life. This was my life with my kids. Like, for all those years, I had to be a separate person in different environments. Yeah. But I was like, no more. Because after having so much loss and we talked about the experiences of losing people and do they really know you, I wanted the full me to be present at all times. And I feel like when I stepped into the true me, I can be a full designer. I can bring my whole self. I can still be smart and articulate, and I can stand in front of a room of people and challenge them. And why is it's all okay. And I don't want to hide it from the world, and I want to be able to put
Yeah.
my real life to the test. And I feel like if I hadn't have met you, I'm not so sure that that would have.
Well, I feel like we grew up together. I mean, I always wanted this where we are. I didn't know how I was going to get there. It had to be a we. And then I feel like we grew up because again, we worked really hard. We're in a room. We're just guessing half the time. But we were like, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to impact the world? And we just said, let's go for it. Like, and we removed all the barriers. It was hard, but I think that we just every day we just showed up. Every challenge, they're like, go to Venezuela and train people. Okay, and it was really scary. I'd never been to Venezuela before. The people are amazing. The country's interesting, and so we go to Colombia. Then we just hopped on planes, and again, grateful we were able to do that through this beautiful company that we work for. And we started to feel and see the way people reacted to the information we were giving them. And it was powerful. And what I love about it is that we wanted to yield that power for good, always, and sometimes even, take steps back and say, oh, okay, so how are we going to do this? Because it could turn out totally different. We could have used the power in a different way, honestly.
Yeah.
And we had to have a lot of conversations with each other, especially if we started to feel like we're all that,
Humble yourself.
Humble yourself. But I think, again, like, what's interesting is how much we have, been through together, able to overcome, pick ourselves up, and show up. And I think that's, if anything, that is our superpower, because we, no matter what is going on, and really, really, really bad things have happened to us over the last couple years, 10 years, 11 years, we still know how to show up and not let anyone see us sweat. And I think
that's it.
That's
I
it.
think in wrapping up, I mean, listen, if I can tell you one thing, it's the power is in the process. And if you continue to show up and do the work and you want it and you can continue no matter how hard it gets, if it's 10 years, will you still go? If it's 11 years, will you still go? If it's 12 years, will you still go?
And I believe we're going to be in each other's lives forever, until the day. But also, I just want to challenge anyone listening to this podcast. Do you know your people, your tribe? Do you know them? And have you asked the right questions? I learned a lot about Christi today. I'm really glad to hear, and there's way more. And I was glad to share some of the things that she might know about me, because I think it's truly important to start to peel those layers and understand why we're the way we are today. And know that why it's important is because people want to be seen. And so I think what you said, Christi, is so important, and I couldn't put words to it. When people see you for who you really are, and then they just believe in you, the world is changed. Because you're changed, and therefore you can change the world. And what about more of that?
Yeah.
What about more of that?
Yeah, more love. And at the end of the day, the part that I know is that